Answer with Dan and Amy continues now, and make sure to stay tuned to catch me, Mike Gallagher, coming up at 9, only on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So, Republicans really readjusting their sights, aren't they, when you're celebrating a procedural vote to have debate on Obamacare repeal after 7 years of Republicans talking about the importance of repealing and replacing Obamacare. That's what happened yesterday. And the debate ensued and the first vote taken on the proposal to replace Obamacare that was not going to get the requisite number of support, but it was interesting to sort of take a straw vote on it. And it was 9 Republicans who rejected the party's repeal and replace plan from both sides of the House, in terms of moderates like Collins and Murkowski, as well as conservatives like Rand Paul and Tom Cotton and Mike Lee. So the prospects for anything resembling repeal and replace, or even straight repeal, or so-called skinny repeal. Have you heard this?
No, is it light, skinny?
Skinny repeal would be to only eliminate Obamacare's health insurance mandates on individuals and business, and the medical tax, the tax on medical devices, I should say. That's skinny repeal and replace, and that seems to have some momentum, but is it enough to get to the magic numbers? I don't know. We'll talk to Steve more about that momentarily, but also we had the return of John McCain.
Senator John McCain received a hero's welcome. Everyone stood up and applauded him. And he reminded members of Congress to wake up, and he called them not to be dysfunctional.
Stop listening to the bombastic loudmouths on the radio and television and the internet. To hell with them. We're getting nothing done, my friends. We're getting nothing done.
And he reminded members of the Senate
why they despise him.
No, they don't despise him, Dan. Maybe you do, because he's a wishy-washy, squishy, moderate Republican, but they have a purpose and they have a role.
Whether or not we are of the same party, we are not the president's subordinates. We are his equal.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, did anybody argue that you were his subordinates? No, we understand that. Thanks for the civics lesson, Senator McCain. All right. Well, speaking of bombastic loudmouths on the radio.
And TV.
And TV, exactly.
Should we even let him on?
Double threat. Steve Moore, Wall Street Journal columnist, Heritage Foundation economist. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Hey, guys. That's the nicest introduction I've ever had.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Thank you so much. It is such a damn mess, though. I was just listening to what you guys were saying. And, how did we arrive at this point where we waited 7 years? Conservatives all over the country, worked to get a Republican House, a Republican Senate, a Republican president, based on this promise that they would repeal Obamacare. One of the things that your listeners have to understand is virtually every Republican, even the ones who voted no yesterday, every Republican who ran for Congress promised their voters they would repeal Obamacare. Now they have the moment to stand up and deliver, and they can't do it. It is sickening. I'm so disgusted with the Republican Party right now.
Well, in addition to the political prognostication, what is your substantive take on the so-called skinny repeal? Is that weighty enough? Well,
I wrote a column this week sort of endorsing that, and it's a fallback position. Look, if I had my druthers, we'd repeal every single word of Obamacare, and that's what Donald Trump said on the campaign. Every word of it would be repealed. But the political reality is that they don't have the 50 votes to get full repeal or even mostly repeal. So, and the problem is, look, when did Republicans really start to fall apart? When the Congressional Budget Office started putting out these bogus reports saying, 20 million people are going to lose their insurance under the Republican plan. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I think most of your listeners know that is a complete fabrication and lie, because over half of those people are supposedly going to lose their insurance are people who don't want the insurance. They can't afford it. And these are people who are paying the fine rather than buying the Obamacare policies because they're so expensive. So what this kind of fallback position would do was say, keep Medicaid. Medicaid's a horrible program. It is the worst way to provide people with insurance. But people want to, if the Democrats want to keep the expansions of Medicaid, do that. But fix the individual insurance market, which is falling apart. That's where you have the death spiral, where sick people are signing up for coverage. Healthy people are dropping out. It's why, almost 40% of areas now in the country either have one or no insurance company left. So fix the individual insurance market and do the Cruz Amendment. I think we talked about this last week, where you give people, if you like Obamacare, you can stay in one of those policies. But if you want a cheaper policy that gives you the coverage that you can afford and that you want, you can do that. So I guess I would take that.
Well, so what does this mean for Americans who are on Obamacare? Because open enrollment begins in 3 months.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's chaos in those markets. There's no question about it, because nobody knows whether the market's going to exist. That's why it's so important. Republicans have to get this done, in my opinion, before Labor Day. Before they leave, they've got to get something done. So there is some kind of certainty in terms of what's going to happen in the market. I believe if you were just to let people have an opt-out, by the way, that would, in my opinion, that would lead to more people having insurance, because it would drop the cost of insurance dramatically if you could get a plan that is not, quote, Obamacare compliant. And what happens when the price of something goes down, Dan? People buy more of it. It's called a downward sloping demand curve.
Well, based on your relationships and on the Hill and the senators that seek advice from you on the substantive policy matter, how do you think this shakes out between conservatives like Lee and Paul and Cruz and Cotton, and then some of the moderates?
Yeah.
Who is essentially, where's the center of gravity in terms of those that are on the outside looking in?
So that's a great question, and I would put it like this: I think that Murkowski and Susan Collins are lost. Right, they're done. We can't count on them for anything that's worth passing one other one. So that means we're down to 50. Right, that means we have to have every other Republican vote for this. We can't pass a bill. If my friend Rand Paul, as you know, I worked for Rand Paul in the presidential campaign. I love Rand. We can't pass a bill without him. We can't pass a bill without Mike Lee. I had dinner with Mike Lee last week, and we had a long discussion about this. And I said, Mike, look, I'm substantively with you on all of this stuff. But at the end of the day, if we need your 50th vote, you've got to be there for us, because even a scaled-down Obamacare repeal is much better for the country and for the party than failure. I just think failure is a catastrophe here. And by the way, the left is out there saying, why don't you do a bipartisan bill? And this guy, who's your mayor's brother? What's his name?
Zeke Emanuel.
Zeke. Death panel. Death panel. Zeke. Zeke Emanuel.
Yeah. He had this piece in the paper saying, "Here's the compromise. We get everything we want."
Yes.
What the Democrats want, by the way, is here's the great thing about this. Nobody's talking about in the media. The Democrats want basically a bailout of the insurance companies. So is it any wonder that the insurance companies like the Democrat plan better than the Republican plan?
Wait a second. I thought they were against big corporations. I just read yesterday in their announcement about their Better Deal policy agenda, government has slacked off the enforcement of laws. The result is bigger and bigger corporations with more and more power. That's what Pocahontas said.
Exactly. So they're such hypocrites, because you've got this unholy alliance now, ladies and gentlemen, between the big insurance companies who bought all in on Obamacare, because after all, why wouldn't they love Obamacare? What other industry in America has the government forcing you to buy their product?
Well, and now, just going back to your dinner with Mike Lee, when you said if we need you to be the 50th vote, you got to be there for the party and for the country in reverse order. What did he say?
I think in the end of the day, he will be there. I do. I think he got it. I think he's playing a strategic position. I agree with him. He said, Steve, I'm holding out for the very, very best bill we can get.
Yeah, okay.
And I respect that opinion. The one I'm a little bit worried about is Rand Paul. I mean, I love Rand, but he's so principled, that he may not vote for a bill that doesn't, have substantial repeal of Obamacare. So we're stymied right now. I don't know the solution to this right now, Dan.
Well,
I don't know how it's going to turn out.
And what's up with Senator Lindsey Graham? Why did he vote no?
Can anyone ever explain Lindsey Graham?
I mean, that was because his girlfriend McCain voted yes.
Right. So I actually didn't see the roll call on that vote last night. So Lindsey voted no and McCain voted yes?
Yes, correct.
Oh, wow. That's amazing, because those two are
thick as thieves.
Twins. I don't know. I can't explain that one. I can't explain it. But Lindsey, he's always unpredictable. And look, but I think I want to urge all your readers to go back and read last week's Wall Street Journal editorial called the Obamacare Republican.
Yeah.
it gets at the heart of the matter, that this is a generational defining moment for the Republican Party. They have to do this. I mean, this is about what the party is about. If we don't do this, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get single-payer system, government on health care like the VA system, where the government takes over 1/6 of our economy. It's the most dangerous thing I've ever heard of.
And if you don't believe Steve Moore, all you have to do is listen to Chuck Schumer, who said exactly that over the weekend on Clinton Foundation Zero's program, Donor Zero's program. He is.
Yeah, that's the first time in my life I've ever agreed with Chuck Schumer.
Yeah, right.
The Democrats, they knew, by the way, when they passed Obamacare that it was going to fail. They knew that you were going to get the death spiral, and they realized that this would be the stepping stone to get the single-payer system. And by the way, if you like single-payer, you must love the VA system where our veterans are dying in the hospitals.
Steve Moore, thanks so much for joining us. As always,
right,
appreciate
guys.
it.
Have a great week.
You
Bye.
too.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.